Hey, what's up, Ram fans? Hey, on the YouTube channel, there has been a discussion about, what it's going to take for the Rams to make the playoffs in a really tough division. It's very competitive. They're 5-2, and right now, currently the seed, despite that record. And a couple of commenters pointed out that 49ers probably going to win this division, even though they might be the third best team in the NFC West. Fair enough. That's a true assessment, an honest assessment of how this is shaken down. 49ers have a really easy schedule. Rams and Seahawks have 2 games left with each other. There's a lot of sorting out to do, but I thought I'd take a look at, what is the Rams' path to the playoffs? And the thought here is my hypothesis is that the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers are all going to make the playoffs. And let me explain. I've already worked through this myself a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm thinking here. So, worst case scenario, and for those on the podcast just listening, I'll try to walk you through the graphics I'm showing here. Let's just say the division champions are the Eagles, 49ers, Lions, and Bucks. Now, I'm not saying that's the done deal, but for this discussion, let's just say that is the case. And I'm also saying, as I've discussed previously, there are 4 NFC West teams who I think are pretty much done. Cardinals, Saints, Panthers, and Giants. And maybe a little hasty of all teams, the Panthers showing some life. All 4 of these teams have shown some life at one time or another. If the Giants had held it on against the Broncos, maybe they would be in this conversation as well. But Cardinals, Saints, Panthers, and Giants are done for this discussion. And if one of you have fans of one of those teams happen to stumble across this, hey, I'm not throwing shade. Well, I am throwing shade on your franchises, but this is just for a discussion about the Rams and what their playoff prospects look like. So that means there are 8 teams vying for the remaining 3 spots. And you got the Packers at 4-1-1, the Rams and Seahawks at 5-2, the Bears at 4-2, the Cowboys at 3-3-1, the Falcons at 3-3. The Vikings just lost to the Chargers. That's a good result for our Rams. Them and the Commanders, Vikings and Commanders, both 3-4. So it's a crowded field. And fortunately, the Rams, as disappointed as we are, the fact that we could very easily be 7-0, hey, we've had some luck of our own along the way, though, to get to 5-2, haven't we? That dropped ball at the goal line by the Colts that could have changed the outcome of that game. But Rams are 5-2, and we should actually be, thankful that that's where we're at. So let's walk through each of these teams. And the Packers at 4-1-1. I'm not going to go through every one of these games, but the highlights here in the division, the Packers still have 2 games with the Bears as well as the Vikings, and 2 games with the Vikings as well, and a game with the Lions. They've got some NFC teams left: the Panthers, Eagles, and the Giants, and the Steelers, Broncos, and Ravens over in the AFC. And again, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but I think they will finish either 10-6-1 or 11-5-1. And I'm not picking every game, telling you what the result of every game is going to be, but I think that's a pretty good guess on where they're going to be at here. The thing I'm not unsure about with them is the Steelers, Broncos, and Ravens. Broncos and Ravens both on the road. Will the Ravens have their act together by the time they play the Packers? Steelers, a tough team on the road always. So I'm still thinking, I don't know, they go 2-1 or 1-2 across those 3 games. So 10-6-1 or 11-5-1. Let's talk about our friends from the north, way up north, the Seattle Seahawks, 5-2. They're getting a lot of love from all corners, and deservedly so. They're playing really good football. So 5-2, they have 2 games with the Rams and the Cardinals and the 49ers, 1 apiece. In their other NFC games, not too tough a road. They got the Commanders, Vikings, Falcons, and Panthers. So let's say they split their NFC West games, and very well could go 3-1 across those other NFC games, even 4-0 actually. And then the Titans and the Colts are remaining AFC games. So let's say they go 1-1. I have them going 11-6, finishing 11-6, and maybe even 12-5. If they get on a roll, it is very possible they could get to 12 wins. But let's say they get to 11, and in a moment, at the end here, we'll see how relevant it is whether they get to 11 or 12, maybe just in seeding only, which is important. Don't mean to dismiss that. But for this argument, we're talking about the Rams' path to the playoffs. Then you have the Bears 4-2, and another team with a manageable schedule. They have the Vikings, and then 2 games with the Packers, and then the Lions as well. So maybe 2-2 at best. The NFC games they have, the other NFC games, the Giants, Eagles, and 49ers. The Eagles and 49ers on the road. So maybe 1-2 is the best they can do. But they have the entire AFC North, which is a bit of a mess. The Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns. Let's say they get 3 wins there. So they still finish 10-7. I don't think they get more than 10 wins. The Bears do. And that probably is not going to be enough this year. But this is not an exact science, just playing with some numbers here, trying to make an educated estimate of how this NFC is going to stack up in the end here. You got the Cowboys at 3-1, and I think they are up against it. They have the Eagles, Commanders, and Giants in their division. They've played everybody in their division once. They got one more round to go. Then they have the Cardinals, Lions, and Vikings. They could go 2-1 there. And then the AFC South, they get the entire AFC South. That's going to be tough. I think 2-2 is the best they could be expected to do. Cowboys, one of the more difficult teams to put my finger on here, what exactly we have with the Cowboys. But 1-2 in their division the rest of the way, 2-1 in their other NFC games, and 2-2 at best against the AFC West. That would put them at 8-1. Remember, they had the tie with the Packers. That's not going to be nearly good enough to get into the dance. Hey, by the way, we are partnering up with MyBookie. Go to mybookie.website/joinwithRamsUp. Use promo code RamsUp. Up to $500 in bets is fully covered. And I've been on a bit of a roll here. I had 3 of my 5 bets come in that I shared. I think I shared them. And I picked up 2 games on Pete. I'm just 1 behind him now, Pete Prisco. I've always been ahead of him, so I'm not celebrating quite yet. I'm pretty disappointed and where I'm standing right now. But MyBookie, I tell you, bet responsibly, but if you are going to have some fun with some bets, you can't beat this deal. And I don't know if the Dodgers are still going to be playing in the World Series by the time the Rams get back on the field, but how about parlaying a Ram-Dodgers outcome? And I hit on a parlay last Monday. MyBookie's the way to go, I'm telling you. I took the Blue Jays, Lions, and Seahawks. Lions and Seahawks on the middle line. All just straight up picks. All 3 came through for me, so I hit that parlay. Parlays are sucker bets, I know, but they're an awful lot of fun, especially if you can pick like an early game that you're pretty sure is going to come in, and then you can have fun with those last 2 games and try to get a good payout on maybe one game that's a little bit of an upset. So that's what I did, and gaining ground on Pete. I had a couple really bad weeks there. I'm not going to get into the details, but bounced back this past week. Had a really good day and really good weekend. Now on to the Rams' path to the playoffs. We had the Falcons at 3-3, and this is another team that could get to 10 wins. They have the 2 games with the Saints, could sweep them. They could beat the Panthers. Then they got at the Bucks, a game at Tampa Bay. They have the Seahawks, Cardinals, and Rams left. I see them going 2-1 at best, I think. And then in the AFC, they have the Dolphins, Patriots, Colts, and Jets. So I see them splitting those games. So if they could pull off a win against the Bucks or the Rams, they could maybe get to 11 wins. But I think 10 is pretty spot on for the Falcons and another team that might be on the outside looking in. And again, not an exact science. There's going to be a bunch of surprises here. But a team can have a surprise win and a surprise loss. So it all kind of evens out, right? The Vikings at 3-4, that loss to the Chargers, that's a good result for our Rams and the other NFC teams. What do the Vikings have left? They have 2 games with the Packers and 2 games with the Lions and the Bears. Now, your first reaction, especially if you're a Vikings fan, is like, holy moly, we are screwed. But if you're 3-4 and looking up at the rest of your division, you want those games on your schedule. This is the chance to give yourself a W and a divisional opponent an L. So the Vikings, I'm not saying they're in a good place, but if you're 3-4, you want those games on your docket. And you make your case by beating divisional opponents. And they got a bunch of games left in the division. Their other NFC games include the Seahawks. Seahawks are really only the tough team. Washington, it's really strange. I really thought this was going to be the year for them to push for an NFC East title. And maybe they still will. But Jaden Daniels been banged up a lot. So if the Vikings get a healthy Jaden Daniels, they might be fortunate to go 2-2 in those games. And they have only one remaining AFC game, the Ravens. So let's give them a win there. And that gets them to just 8-9. Another team that is always just, every year just kind of hanging around. I don't think this is the year they get to the playoffs, though. The Commanders at 3-4, just talked about them briefly. They have 2 games with the Eagles and then the Cowboys and Giants. In the NFC, the other NFC games, the Seahawks and Lions, and at the Vikings. So those divisional games, I had them going 2-2. Seahawks, Lions, and Vikings 2-1. And then their AFC teams, they got the Chiefs and Broncos. And they do get the Dolphins as well at Miami. I figure they'll beat the Dolphins. The other two, maybe I'm being a little harsh. I have them going 2-1, meaning I think that's fair. They'll beat maybe the Broncos or the Chiefs and go 2-1. So actually, I think that is fair. So the Commanders finish, even with that, Commanders finish 9-8. So they're going to have to pick up another divisional win to even have a shot at the playoffs, I think. And then we have the Rams. Our Rams 5-2. Obviously, the 2 games with the Seahawks are something to be concerned about, as well as at Santa Clara, and then 2 games with the Cardinals. A bunch of divisional games left. And then the NFC, 2 tough games, the Bucks and the Lions, and then the Falcons with that draft pick on the line, where the Rams can improve their draft position by beating the Falcons. And then they have the Saints. So I have them going 3-2 in their divisional games, 3-2 in these remaining NFC games, and none more. No, they're done with the AFC. That would put the Rams at 11-6. And, so let's walk through this a little bit slowly here. Let's say they split with the Seahawks and beat the Cardinals and Niners. That gets them to 3-2. So, maybe they only go 2-3. I'd hope they go 3-2. But then you get down to the Saints, Bucks, Lions, Panthers, and Falcons, and that puts a lot of pressure on them to beat the Saints, Panthers, and Falcons and knock off either the Bucks or Lions. And both those games, remember, are at SoFi. So I think they get to 11-6, and I think I'm being conservative. Not an easy schedule, though, but there are some games that they should win, and they better win. And I wanted to highlight some key games. Going across these remaining games with all these teams, a few games jumped out at me. And the Packers and Vikings, they have 2 games against each other. Vikings need to win both of those to have any chance. Rams beating the Seahawks twice. I don't think that's a requirement. Vikings beating the Packers twice. I think it is. Rams, Seahawks, I think both these teams make it to the dance, as I'll demonstrate here in a second. This could go a long way towards determining the pecking order. Now, keep in mind, the Rams, if they get to 11 wins, already having 5 AFC wins, their conference record's not going to be that splendid, right? So that's going to hurt them in a lot of tiebreakers. Seahawks and Falcons will be a big game. Falcons probably need to win that one. Falcons also have a big game against the Bucks. That could end up being, division. The division could still be on the line there. And that would be the only way where I think 3 teams from the NFC West do not make it to the playoffs if the Falcons somehow go on a run and win that division and the Bucks get in too. Maybe another reason why the Rams-Bucks game could be extremely important. Commanders-Vikings, the loser of that is done, and Bears-Vikings, Bears would need to win that one. There's a bunch of other games. These are the ones that jumped out at me as being especially important, and I'm probably missing a bunch of them as well. I mean, if you think about it, they're all important, right? But these are the games between both teams vying for a playoff spot essentially, and kind of some of them on even ground, divisional matchups, that type of thing. Now, my projected seeding after all of that, the seeding, it could go a lot of different ways, but 1 through 7, the top 4 have the Lions, Eagles, Bucks, and 49ers, followed by the Packers, Seahawks, and Rams. Those are my 1 through 7. I have the Rams as the 7th seed. See, now, if they are 11-6, they're probably going to lose some tiebreakers here. And then they also Rams, the Bears, and Falcons at 10-7, the Commanders at 9-8, the Cowboys 8-1, Vikings 8-9, and then those other 4 also Rams, the Cardinals, Saints, Panthers, and Giants. Wanted to share some other data from other sources, playoff chances. It's racking and stacking the teams by probability of making the playoffs. And at the top there is Tampa Bay in the NFC, followed by Green Bay, Philadelphia, Detroit, the Rams, Seattle, and San Francisco. Now, those are my 7 playoff teams. And Chicago, they took into account the easy schedule I talked about as well. Now, I'm surprised that they have the San Francisco at the 7 spot. I'm not sure how this is based on schedule. That doesn't seem quite right to me. I think the 49ers would be higher, but if you take this into account, they basically, I think what they're saying is the Rams have a good chance of winning the division. Although if they end up in a tie, all bets are off. They could have a higher probability of making the playoffs, but still lose the tiebreaker, right? And then the current playoff picture in the NFC, Green Bay would get the bye. The Rams would travel to San Francisco. Whoa, what a doozy that would be. I want video of the 49er fans leaving that stadium. That would be sweet. Then Seattle would travel to Philadelphia. Right now, if those 2 teams played, I'd probably take the Seahawks. I don't know who would be favored in that, but I think Seahawks are probably a 3.5 point better team at a neutral site. So money line on the Seahawks in that one. And then the Lions and Bucks, that would be a fun game. They just got done playing though, and the Lions really controlled it. But, Tampa Bay's had some injuries they've had to work through. Mike Evans looks like he might be done. Is that the case? Bucky Irvin hasn't been playing. But that would be in Tampa Bay. So that would be a fun game. That's a really good field there. I think the Packers, in my opinion, might be the weakest of those 7 teams, yet they would have the number 1 seed in the bye. So one last look at the Rams schedule here. What are we talking about here? We got the Saints. Got to win that one. You just got to. You paint yourself into a corner if you lose that one. Coming off a bye at home. Get the W. Steamroll the Saints. Puka should be back. Then we go up to Santa Clara, get our revenge, and I think that game will be a toss-up. See if the 49ers got some of their guys back by then. Maybe Brock Purdy's good to go. Maybe we'll have a quarterback controversy up there if he struggles against the Rams, because Mac Jones seems to be playing okay. Then the Seahawks at home. That's our midnight mode game. Then we travel to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay comes to SoFi for a Sunday night football game. And then across the country to play the Panthers, another game. Got to win it. Just got to win it. Panthers are playing respectable football, but got to win that one. And then at Arizona, then we host the Lions. Then we travel up to Seattle for a Thursday night football game. And then at Atlanta, a Monday night football game. And then we return to play the Cardinals at home. Now, the Falcons game, a little bit of an advantage there for the Rams. The Falcons are on the road the previous Sunday. The Rams will have played on Thursday, so the Rams will have a few days extra rest there. So there's a lot of the things in this schedule that benefits the Rams, and we can hope the Rams take advantage of it. Rams could be picking up a cornerback here, possibly. I think it's very possible they could make a deal, make a trade. I'm saying cornerback because that's the obvious spot they need help at. But the unit's been playing better. Maybe we'll see how things go for a week before the trading deadline. But Rams are in good shape. I don't think there are any must-win games on this schedule. Although I'm telling you, they better beat the Saints and they better beat the Panthers. And I don't mean to slight those franchises, but those are games that the Rams should win. They're supposed to win, and they better win. See the Rams getting to 11 wins, possibly 12, 13. That would be a really, really tough to get to 13 at this point, but it's still possible. Rams are in great shape. Hey, Let's take it to the next level, get to the playoffs, maybe even get a home game in the playoffs. And that would mean, first of all, let's take care of the Saints. How about that? Let's just leave it at that for now. Let's take care of the Saints and get to 6-2. Out here from Rams Up.